So, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're just finishing off the last few loads of slurry for the 2022 season. We've only got, you can see, well maybe you can't see it down there, not very much left. Say another 2-3 loads after this will finish it off. But now that we've more or less done a full season with our MBE dribble ball, we're going to be having a little look at it, how we've gotten on with it one season in, what I think of it and all of that kind of stuff. I know a lot of you are all on the fence, maybe you're thinking about purchasing a dribble bar at this stage, so might be some help to you, and if it is, well and good. So yeah, 1 year in, we're going to be having a look at the dribble bar and seeing how it gets on. The other thing is, you might notice I had a bit of running with a lawnmower over the weekend. I'm just not as scruffy looking as it was, which is a good thing. Okay, so middle of last year we decided we were going to go to low emission slurry spreading, and we didn't initially know what manufacturer we were going to go for, so we looked at a few of the major manufacturers here in Ireland and had a look at them. Didn't do any business, didn't do anything, and we had known that MBE were coming out with a dribble bar towards the end of last year as well, so we had a bit of homework done and checked out some of the manufacturers, and then we seen this machine here as well when it was manufactured, and really liked this machine here because it was just stronger than some of the other ones that we were looking at. Looked nicer and neater built. It was neater in behind the tanker. It didn't just go onto the back door of the tanker, it was actually chassis mounted, and these were all things that we liked. The other thing I liked too about it was a lot of people are going for 7 meters, or some people are going for 7 meters, and apart from the fact that our tanker was taking more than 7 meters, and that you would be taking a narrower strip down the field, and also having a narrower strip meant you were going to have more ground speed. Apart from the fact that those things were against it, going for the 9 meter was closer to what we were taking when we were spreading with the splash plate. Your ground speed didn't have to be just as high, and the other major bonus of having the 9 meter that folds as the MBE does is that when it folds, it is nice and neat in behind the tank. So you probably have noticed that in some of the other videos, it's not sticking out. The 7 meter from some of the other manufacturers are sticking out 3 foot above the tank, and I just see them as something that can catch in low hanging hedges or trees, and also if you want to go in and out of low doors into sheds, it's something that could catch as well and can hinder you. So the 9 meter one folded nice and neatly round, folds round. It doesn't just fold down and stick out at the back like some other manufacturers do. It actually folds right down and in on top of itself, the same as the like sprayer booms do, and just everything about it I really liked. So that's really why I went with the MBE, and it has been so far so good. We're going to get a little bit of footage of it now. We're going to get some footage of it folding out and it in action, and I'll kind of chat about it as we're spreading some slurry. Alright, so a little bit of footage here of the dribble bar in action. So just set the camera up here on the old unused splash plate. So just as I'm pulling up and reversing back, I fold out the dribble bar. It does fold out fairly quickly, as you can see. Once it's folded out, I flick the switch in the cab, which then diverts the oil from the folding out process to working the lollipop. Quickly build the pressure, and the pressure does build very quickly on this load because the water is quite watery, and you'll see that now once I actually start moving and open the lollipop. There's a bit of a blast of watery slurry out the pipes. But yeah, it's fairly simple to use. The only thing I will say is that the pipes themselves, they come longer than what they are needed, and I probably should have cut them. I haven't cut them yet, those yellow drop down pipes, but I think I will. Over the winter time I might take maybe about 3 inches off them, because they do tend to catch sometimes in if you've a wee bit of a rut or a bump in the field, they can catch a little bit. But I've left them as they were because I did like the way that they, in longer grass, they kind of go down between the grass and they let the slurry out directly on the ground. So that was why I didn't cut them. So what changes was made to the actual tanker for connecting to the tractor? Well, the first thing you'd have to talk about is hydraulic hoses. This tanker you needed two sets of spool valves to work this tanker. One set went out and controlled the rear door, so basically opening and closing your lollipop whenever you're spreading slurry, and then the other set was for this here, so you needed another spool valve for controlling the hydraulic changeover on top of the pump. The addition of the dribble bar meant that there was another 2 spool valves needed. One set was for folding up and down the dribble bar itself, and another set to feed the macerator for working that whenever you're spreading slurry. Now what they can do is, and most manufacturers all doing the same thing, they're adding an electric, like a little solenoid changeover valve that you can get away with just having 3 spool valves needed on your tractor, and you have a little switch inside in the cab that flicks it over. The way they usually work it is the lever where you're opening and closing the lollipop, you can flick a switch that it diverts it and it lets up and down your dribble bar, folds it in and out. So you can flick it, fold it out, flick it back and work your lollipop then. And it's really simple and a good enough job. It just saves having to try and add another set of spool valves onto the back of the tractor. Most of my tractors all had 3 sets. The new tractor has more than that, but the 3650 only had 2, so I can't actually use this. I'm going to have to see if I can get, you could get 3 on them, and it's nearly the only extra that it hadn't got was that it hadn't got 3 spools coming from the factory. It only had 2, so we're going to have to do something that, if I want to spread a bit of slurry at some point with it, that be able to use the tanker with the dribble bar on it. But yeah, that's the major changes that on the hydraulic side of it. The other thing that had to be done was it was mounted onto the chassis, so there was a plate put onto the actual chassis of it itself. So a bit of modifications to be done there, and then there's another just a mounting bracket that goes on here at the top as well. So they're the main modifications. Everything else then is just connected on and made up and connected on to what's on the tanker itself. And yeah, I like it. I like the fact that it's in mounted. It's much neater than the ones that goes onto the door. You can see it's nice and neat back in on top of the tanker. Less weight. If it was mounted out further, it means a bit more weight on it, and it's kind of pulling, and the drawbar will be flopping about a little bit more on the road. It does move about a wee bit on the road compared to what it used to, but as I say, a lot less than what the door mounted ones will. The other thing that had to be done as well, there was a little modification bracket made up just for the lights, because of the position on the lights on these older tankers. Just had to be made up. But yeah, that's all done in the fitting process. But yeah, so that is that. Was it hard to get used to using the dribble bar? It wasn't actually too bad. If you're used to spreading a bit of slurry, you'll get used to it fairly quickly. The main things you have to watch out for is just getting used to driving in the right place, dropping your line of slurry down more or less alongside your last line of slurry, just to keep it accurate. Also, I suppose, when you're driving in and out at the headlands, knowing exactly where to turn on and off, because when you turn it off, there is a little bit of a flow out that continues on, so you just have to know when to preempt turning it off, that you're just finishing the slurry as you're coming out. So a couple of wee things like that. The other thing is that you do lose a little bit of horsepower driving the macerator. There's no doubt that you do. There's probably a loss of somewhere in the region. We'll stop this because we've just finished. Somewhere in the region, I'd say, of 15-20 horsepower that you will lose driving the macerator, and that's something you just have to remember, because that loss of that little bit of horsepower plus the fact, if you're spreading the slurry all the time with your tanko and you put a dribble bar on it, you're losing that little bit of horsepower, plus the fact that well, I don't know exactly what weight the dribble bar is, which it could be 300 kilos or extra weight on, or 400 kilos extra weight on the tanko. So that additional bit of weight also will play a role in hilly ground. So the less horsepower and the extra weight, you just have to take that into account. I actually got one plot of land which I had slurried the previous couple of years, really bad hill in it. Done it with the 6.9 and the tanko, and I went to do it this year with the 6.9 and the tanko, and with the loss of power and the extra weight, it was very, very difficult to do it. So that's just something that you have to bear in mind. But look, in most cases, if there's a hill in the field, you can spread a bit down below it, empty the tanker out a bit, and then do the hill then afterwards, and it's not an issue. So you can work around these things. But that's really the only thing. Like I've had no issues whatsoever with the dribble bar. I've never had to at any stage stop using it and revert back to the splash plate. I haven't splashed one tanker load, a half tanker load of slurry this year. It's all went out with the dribble bar, and the differences that you can see in the grass growth are there to be seen. I'll just stop on the way out. I'll show you a field. It was slurried about 3 weeks ago, and I've just moved a few cows and a couple of horses onto it here, and I'll show it to you now on the way out. Alright, so quick look at this field. So this field is slurried about 3 weeks ago, had been grazed down nice and tight, and you can see there's a lovely soil of grass come on it. We put on 2,000 gallons per acre, dribble barred on, and you can see the way it's responded. So grass growth this time of the year isn't usually as good as earlier in the year, and even still it's come on very, very well. Yeah, the whole year on our grazing, we've been able to manage the grazing a little bit better this year even than other years, because when you dribble bar the slurry out, if you're working on a 21-day rotation, grazing rotation, you're able to shave a couple of 3 days off that, no problem, a couple of days at least. So rather than aiming to get them back in at 21 days, you can get them back in maybe at 19 days, and your grass is just coming on that wee bit faster. So we're very, very happy with it and how it's working out. It basically has, the improvement has meant that we've used even less chemical. We usually use a little bit of chemical fertilizer at certain points of the year during the grazing. We used very, very little this year at all. I think there was a couple of small fields that we did, but also we're running out of slurry, so yeah, very, very happy with it. The other thing I just want to show you is how the breakaway works. So we're going to try to just reenact it as if we're after catching it very badly, having an awful accident in the ditch. So there you go, we've caught it, we've had an awful accident, things has went rather awry. All you have to do to reset it is very simply just extend your valve back out again, and it just flicks it straight around. So there's no getting out, no having to reset it manually. It's all done on the ram itself. So very, very simple and very, very easy to do. So I suppose the big question is the move over to low emission slurry spreading worth it? For us, I would say yes, that it is. We've seen the benefit of it with, as I mentioned, in our grazing. We were able to get the grass to perform that wee bit better. We had less use of chemical fertilizer on the grazing end of things this year. So that was a big thing with the cost of that. But the other side of it too was, both in our silage ground and in our hay ground, we applied less chemical fertilizer there as well this year, and we didn't see that big of a drop off in yields. And part of that could be down to the weather and the way things worked out with that, but it's also partially down to the fact that the slurry was dribble barred on, and I think that played a pivotal role in that too. So there was a good saving overall on fertilizer this year with the with the dribble ball. The other thing too is when you're making the investment, there is a grant there for it. So we were eligible for the 40% grant. A lot of farmers are. I know some dairy farmers who are in a derogation aren't eligible. I've heard of different people saying that. So there is that, but a lot of farmers are eligible. And then if you're a young farmer or qualify as a young farmer, then I think you can actually get up to 60% off the cost of a dribble ball. So or a trailing shoe. So it is something to think about if you are eligible. So yeah, overall, as I might say, I am very happy with it and how it has all worked out. I was apprehensive at the start. The first few loads I was doing, I was like, it's a bit more awkward now than just spreading from the splash plate, but I got in on it very, very quickly. It's just a matter, it's like any machine, just a matter of just getting used to it and being able to know all the little tricks with it. But yeah, for me and for us, it's definitely a thumbs up for the dribble ball. So that's a look at the dribble ball, what we think of it 1 year in, and just generally our thoughts on it. I will leave a link in the description below to MBE's Facebook page, and yeah, you'll be able to get in contact with them there if you want to find out more about the dribble bars. Yeah, but that is it. Don't forget, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the sub button, leave a like in the video, comment down below if you have any questions, and yeah, I will try to get back to you. Until the weekend, take care and see you then.